The Patrick Riggins Show. Call in now, 865-243-TALK. That's 243-8255. And now your host, Patrick Riggins.
Welcome to the Patrick Riggins Show. Leading in with some good music from a band called Chevelle. Each week we are here rocking your world with hard-hitting truth. But we do temper it with lots of humor and fun. Why in the world would you do anything in life if you're not going to have fun doing it?
Why?
I have no idea. A lot of times things are boring. They can be irritating or maddening. But there is no reason to not have a cheerful and happy outlook on life. Anything else is a waste of your energy and only serves to poison your otherwise upbeat and optimistic mind. Joining us as we skip merrily along is the vivacious radio station WNOX FM 100.3. This is the radio station pumping out 100,000 watts or 100 kilowatts or 0.1 megawatts, whatever your power meter happens to be currently calibrated to. Here we speak the language of limited government and encourage all those who listen to learn to speak it as well. You will find our lexicon full of freedom and liberty, our vocabulary laced with enlightenment and independence. For some, learning is easy. For others, it is hard. The key, like any language, is to learn it while you are young because it will serve you well the rest of your life. However, there is no age limit, so it is never too late to pick it up and become as fluent as you possibly can. Before I get too far off on a tangent, I want to be sure and mention you can experience this radio show on the internet as well as over the air. Just bring up your web browser and type in the WNOX station website address, www.wnoxfm.com. There you can watch and listen to the radio show live via in-studio webcam. That address again is wnoxfm.com. If you are already watching there, you will notice to my left, Ted Nugent. Oh, wait, that's Tori, our show producer.
I do get that quite often, but...
Anything coming up band-wise, Tori?
No, not really. The Invaders have a birthday party to play here in a couple of weeks, the 25th. But
so unless you're invited to the birthday party, no concert for you.
No.
So that makes it exclusive.
Exclusive, yes.
Yeah, so you guys are playing an exclusive venue.
Yeah,
that's how you would put that.
Yeah, if you want to call it that. Yeah.
Oh, that makes it sound so much the better. All right, this week we have a lot to get to, but first, thank you again to everyone for listening this week. And I especially want to thank Ed, Bob, Mike, and Shine for welcoming me onto the Ed and Bob Show this last Monday morning. Thank you also to everyone who called in to ask questions about the show and some of the events happening in the news, and also to everyone who just listened. You, the listening audience, is what is making this show successful, and I can never thank you enough for everything.
Thank you.
Thank you. I love it when I run into people who say they listen and explain how much of a big change it's made in how they think about things. I would like to thank everyone personally, but unfortunately I have to allow time for sleep and eating. So I have to do it wholesale over the air and bring Tori along with me.
We can set you up a little table outside in the parking lot after the show if you want. You can
I
sign
can
autographs.
Yeah, sell
kiss
cookies.
Babies and
sell cookies, or like the Girl Scouts do.
Yeah, sell cookies.
Generate some extra money for the show.
Kiss babies, hug mamas, whatever.
Hug mamas. Yeah, we may have to. We may have to sort some of those. One thing I wanted to mention here at the first of the show, and I've been hearing this over and over again, and it's not really enough to devote a single segment to, but I just keep hearing a lot about this whole rebuilding of the infrastructure of the country. I hear it over and over again from the president and both sides of the aisle. And after thinking about it a while, I have come upon a contention I would like you to consider. We are rapidly reaching a point in this country where we need to decide what we want out of it. Do we want to spend our money on the infrastructure or social benefits? I would argue that spending our money on infrastructure benefits the country by providing the necessary avenues to move things quickly and efficiently. while spending money on social benefits only helps those who are receiving the money. And to be truthful, it really isn't helping them at all. Like throwing money at a spoiled child, trying to buy their love with money just doesn't work. They end up becoming dependent on you for support, and in the long run, it's detrimental to their well-being. So the question is, do we spend our money on things that help our country thrive and grow, or do we spend money on things that are choking the life out of it? Of course, I'm asking these questions rhetorically because we all know the answer. Investment in our country brings returns to everyone. We all benefit from improvements made. But giving money to those who don't earn it is not only morally wrong, but it is not in keeping with our Constitution. A lot of people argue the Constitution is an outdated argument, not in keeping with today's problems and ideals. Okay, taking that premise, is theft illegal, or is it an outdated concept not in keeping with today's problems and ideals? Is theft ever okay to do? How about someone if they're starving? Is theft okay then? Well, of course not. Stealing from another person is never acceptable, even if you're starving. Because if you are starving, people will feed you. I don't care where you are in this country. If you're skin and bones and barely have the strength to knock on someone's door, they will help you. Even if they're totally unsympathetic and call the police, the officers arriving will take you someplace you can get nourishment. That's the way this country is. Now, if you're just hungry and looking for a free meal, then you won't find a lot of sympathy from others who are working day in and day out to make a living, because you're not trying, and they know you aren't. Because if you were, you wouldn't be in that situation. How else can you explain immigrants who arrive in this country, barely knowing the language, and within a generation are highly successful? It is because they know what freedom and liberty is. They are probably coming from a country where these terms are either highly restricted or non-existent. See, to most Americans, freedom and liberty mean nothing because they have never been without them. But when freedom and liberty start being restricted and even eliminated, then you will be craving to once again carry that torch. Unfortunately, it will have been extinguished by then. All right, we're up on the first segment already this week on the show. We have some comments on Mitt Romney's running mate, of course, and some stuff on government privacy, and lots more here on the Patrick Riggin Show. Join us after these messages.
Fighting for freedom, liberty, and the restoration of the Constitution. The Patrick Riggin Show. Call in now at 865-243-8255. That's 243-TALK. And now your host, Patrick Riggins.
Welcome back to the Patrick Riggin Show. No, I cannot save you. You have to save yourself. The first step is making sure you are aware of what is happening in this country. And the second step is doing something about it. Telling your friends about this radio show is that second step. The third being to demand Congress answer for the mess it is making of our country. Good luck with getting a reply, but if enough of us bother them about it, they'll either have to do something or we'll toss them out at the next election. Or recall them, something we probably need to do more of anyway. Before I get started running down that road, though, this week, well, yesterday, of course, Mitt Romney picked Representative Paul Ryan as his vice presidential running mate, surprising some, and definitely setting the tone for the upcoming election. Now, they had their usual dog and pony show, beginning with Mitt Romney talking about one of the goals should they get into office. And, of course, we've gone through and highlighted some of these, and this will be the first one right here.
We offer our commitment to help create 12 million new jobs and to bring better take-home pay to middle-class families.
So they are going to create 12 million new jobs and bring home better take-home pay to middle-class families. I find it interesting when someone in government says they are going to create jobs. Government cannot create jobs other than by hiring more people into an already overbloated bureaucracy. Maybe he means they're going to cut taxes. That would help businesses afford to hire people and provide more take-home money for that middle class.
To strengthen the middle class, we'll provide our workers and our children with the skills to succeed.
Oops, spoke too soon. Mr. Romney is going to provide our workers and children with the skills to succeed. As you know, if you've listened to this show any at all, government cannot provide anything without taxing people to pay for it. Providing our, quote, workers, which incidentally sounds like something straight out of a speech in Moscow, providing our workers and children with the skills to succeed is not the responsibility of government, not one that strives to minimize the intrusion into citizens' lives anyway.
We will help care for those who can't care for themselves, and we will return work to welfare.
Oh boy, even more good news. We are going to care for those who cannot care for themselves, whether you or they want it or not. That's what government is all about, forcing you to do things it thinks you should do, whether constitutional or not. But the fun doesn't stop there. We are going to return work to welfare, not get rid of welfare, because something like that would make Americans more independent. Why, you might even start thinking you have a little bit of freedom in this country.
As poverty has risen to historic and tragic levels, with nearly 1 out of 6 Americans now having fallen into poverty, we will act to bring these families into the middle class.
So now, instead of citing a war on terror to grab your rights, we are going back to a war on poverty so we can act to bring these families into the middle class. And exactly how do you think that is going to happen? Why, through government programs, of course. These poor people can't do it on their own. They need government to do it for them. Just like the war on terror, we are going to fight the boogeyman of poverty in America, which, like terrorists, is almost non-existent here in this country. If you want to see poor people, go to Africa or the slums of South America or India. That is poverty. Poverty is not about lacking money to put gas in your car. And it is not only being able to watch the digital broadcast television channels since you can't afford cable or satellite. If you think it is, I invite you to drive through some of the housing projects and look at how many satellite dishes are attached to the side of the buildings. Using the word poverty brings to mind images of little children in far-off country somewhere barely clinging to life. That definition does not apply in this country. And trying to tug at the heartstrings of caring citizens so you can raise their taxes is not a good example of leadership. But getting back to Mr. Romney's speech, in case you think maybe I'm overreacting and should let him have his honeymoon period, we'll listen to this next clip.
We will preserve and protect Medicare and Social Security and keep them there for future generations.
So instead of trying to get rid of two wasteful and socialistic programs that have done almost irreparable harm to this country, its people, and the economy, we are going to preserve and protect them in order that future generations can enjoy the debt load we are currently incurring. No, we wouldn't want them to miss out on all of that fun.
We're going to reform health care so that more Americans have access to affordable health care, and we'll get that started by repealing and replacing Obamacare.
Repeal and replace. We have covered that over and over on this show. We want to repeal. We do not want replace. Why can't you people in Washington understand that simple concept? To answer my own question, it is because they are all of the same mind. They know better how to care for you than you do. If you want to increase access and quality, it's real simple. Get the government out of it. How hard is that to understand? An interesting note is that Paul Ryan, Mr. Romney's vice presidential candidate, does not totally share his opinion on some of these issues, and this is some of the quotes or clips from his part of this little presentation.
We have the largest deficits in the biggest federal government since World War II. President Obama and too many like him in Washington have refused to make difficult decisions because they're more worried about their next election than they are about the next generation.
It certainly sounds like Representative Ryan is concerned about all this growth in government and how to stop it. He also goes after Washington as a whole in this clip.
Politicians from both parties have made empty promises, which will soon become broken promises with painful consequences if we fail to act now.
And here he addresses the concept of people giving up, of just accepting this is how the economy is going to be from here on out.
Higher unemployment, declining incomes, and crushing debt is not a new normal.
And he also, here he demonstrates that at least he can talk a good game when it comes to our rights and freedoms.
America is more than just a place, though. America is an idea. It's the only country founded on an idea. Our rights come from nature and God, not from government.
I know I'm running through these kind of quick, but there's quite a few I want to get to. Here in these next two, he also addressed socialism in America with these remarks.
We promise equal opportunity, not equal outcomes. And this idea was founded on the principles of liberty, freedom, free enterprise, self-determination, and government by consent of the governed.
Hopefully, he can also put a little pressure on Mr. Romney about this whole repeal and replace he keeps using. Here's this quote.
And we won't replace our founding principles, we will reapply them.
Representative Ryan also made this remark at the first of his speech, but I want to play it here at the end because I think it makes the point so much better.
My dad died when I was young. He was a good and decent man. There are a few things he would say that have just always stuck with me. He'd say, son, you're either part of the problem or part of the solution.
So here we have two people who I think take two different approaches to governing, and it will be interesting to see how things work out between them. Now, neither one of them is really a person that I could get totally behind, and neither one of them would get us anywhere close to where we need to be. But at least Representative Ryan sounds a little closer than Mr. Romney. We'll see how things work out. This all leads me to a little clip we put together just to emphasize that last point I'm making, how these two really are kind of cut from a little bit different cloth. And you can enjoy this little bit. It runs a little bit, about a minute, but I think we can get it in before the break.
And I will repeal and replace Obamacare.
And we won't replace our founding principles, we will reapply them.
I'm going to improve schools and universities and colleges.
We promise equal opportunity, not equal outcomes.
Government will be the partner.
We have the largest deficits in the biggest federal government since World War II.
If we institute pro-growth regulations, pro-growth tax policies, pro-growth intellectual property protections, pro-growth labor policies.
We're in a different and dangerous moment. We're running out of time. You're either part of the problem or part of the solution.
All right, we've reached the bottom of the show already. This is Patrick Riggins with the Patrick Riggins Show. We'll be back after the bottom of the hour break.
Fighting for freedom, liberty, and the restoration of the Constitution. The Patrick Riggins Show. Call in now at 865-243-8255. That's 243-TALK. And now your host, Patrick Riggins.
Okay, starting the second half of the show, which this show just flies by. The Electronic Freedom Foundation, which if you guys don't know about them, they're a really good foundation. You can check them out on the web. They had an article detailing recently released documents that show the FBI has been working with 4 states, Michigan, Hawaii, Maryland, and possibly Oregon. They weren't real sure about that one, to help put together what is being called the Next Generation Identification Facial Recognition Program. This is a program to create a database of facial recognition patterns which will provide law enforcement agencies with the ability to quickly identify people whose patterns they have on file. The states are providing photos not only of their arrest records, that would be booking photos, but also will start providing photos from driver's licenses and permits, as well as the matching fingerprints and other biometric data that are measured and recorded. Of course, if they ever get Obamacare implemented with the government in charge of your health care, that will probably be included in the database as well. And don't give me that, that would be against HIPAA laws argument. The government doesn't give a hoot about what is legal and or constitutional. Now, the FBI even has agreements in place with 77 other countries to share information and allow automatic access to their biometric databases. Germany already has the system in place and is currently sharing this information. The FBI's goal is to be able to search and identify people in photos of crowds on Facebook or other social media sites on the internet, even if you haven't ever been arrested or even suspected of a crime. They want to know who you are with, what you are doing, when you are doing it, and where you are doing it. Time and again, the government has and currently is violating your rights and freedoms. And when it gets caught, claims it is doing it all to protect you. The fact of the matter is, government is not about protecting you. It is about protecting itself from you. Just look at what happens during a riot. The police are sent to protect the government buildings and officials. Those officials could care less about what happens to your property. All this supposed protection is really to track your activities and know what you are doing. This is in order to make sure you aren't plotting anything against the government. The database is just a start of it. This is all leading to the real-time tracking of everyone in the world they can. And unfortunately, we have people, or more like sheep, who will say that if you aren't up to anything, then what are you worried about? This is a blatant invasion of privacy and needs to be stopped. These types of issues are what you need to be asking these people running for office. Ask them the hard questions and don't let them give you some flimsy answer. Make them answer they're going to put a stop to these things. Because if they aren't, all the other issues will quickly become academic. If we're no longer free to move about the country without being watched and tracked the whole time, then there will be no freedom. And thus there will be no United States as we once knew it. So instead of just listening to this show and thinking there is another wacky government program, but then going throughout your week doing your normal routine, why not take a minute to call or email your representative's office and tell them in no uncertain terms to stop all of this? If enough people do that, then we have a chance at succeeding. It's interesting to me that when, a couple of weeks ago, the president of Chick-fil-A, Dan Cathy, is attacked and he's ridiculed about his position on gay marriage. Hundreds of thousands of people turn out to support him and make that day, that Wednesday, August 1st, it was a record-setting day of sales for his company. But we can only get 1/3 to 1/2 of the voting population to the polls to vote on something that affects us all. So what people, they may or may not agree with Dan Cathy's position on gay marriage. How about whether or not you will be free to do what you want in this country? Does that matter to anyone? Where is the anger about all this socialism we have in this country? Oh, wait, that's right. Half this country is getting some form of government support, so they have sold their vote to the highest bidder. Unfortunately, freedom and liberty don't have a bank account. They don't take money from the citizens of America at the point of a gun. So, freedom and liberty cannot offer you free groceries, free housing, free cell phones. However, it is freedom and liberty that indirectly makes those things possible. Freedom and liberty allows businesses to thrive so they can pay taxes which furnish all of these supposed freebies. In the end, we are killing the goose that lays the golden eggs. Eventually, it all has to come to an end. You cannot keep choking the life out of people paying for all of this and not expect at some point they're going to move out of the country or give up and get on the government dole themselves. Over and over, I've said on this radio show, if you are taking money from the government, money you have not paid into the system, well, honestly, then you're a thief and an accomplice to the robbery of your fellow American citizens. If you have taken more than you have paid into the system, you're in the same boat. You are stealing money from your fellow taxpayers. And don't give me the line, other people are doing it.
Other people are doing it.
There you go, because that's what people will say. And they'll say, if I don't get all I can get, it will just go to someone else. Look, a lot of times doing the right thing is not fun. It isn't a pleasant thing to do. It isn't always comfortable. And sometimes, honestly, you come out looking like a fool. But the important thing is you are doing the right thing. Nothing else matters. Not your reputation, not your ego, not your pride. If this makes you feel uncomfortable, then good. You probably need to reassess some things in your life. Selling out your principles in the short term, or for even long-term gain, is never the correct decision. You should always strive to do the right and just thing, even if you suffer the consequences for it. By doing so, in the end, you'll be much more respected for standing firm on your convictions rather than being blown about by the wind. That doesn't mean you should always be constantly ensuring you're correct in your thinking, though. All your principles, you should always test them over and over again in order to verify you are on the right path. That is why libertarianism is such a good philosophy to live by. You will be constant or consistent in your beliefs across the board. Sometimes it is hard to maintain this thinking when a situation presents itself that goes against your old way of thinking, but each time you defeat that seduction, it becomes easier to make the correct decision in the future. Until such time as you don't even have to think about it, you automatically fall on the side of freedom and liberty. And came up right here on the last break here. Boy, this show just flies by, Tori. I tell you, it's
oh yeah.
Yeah, it's already 45 after, and it seems like I just started the show.
Well, you did. 45 minutes ago.
45 minutes ago. Yeah. So we have the last break here. When we come back, we'll get to a couple more things, and we'll try to slot into a couple of calls here if we can get them in real quick in the last segment. This is the Patrick Riggins Show. We'll be right back.
Fighting for freedom, liberty, and the restoration of the Constitution. The Patrick Riggins Show. Call in now at 865-243-8255. That's 243-TALK. And now your host, Patrick Riggins.
And we're back for the last segment of the show. Very quick show. And what we're going to do starting out is just going into this last segment. We're going to take a couple of calls here and see if we can work through them quickly before the end of the show here. First one we'll go to is Tom in Harriman. How you doing, Tom?
Yeah, I'm doing fine. How are you, Patrick?
Pretty good, pretty good. What you got for us today?
Oh, good. I just heard about your show on the Ed and Bob show.
Oh yeah, that we had a lot of fun on there that morning.
Yeah. Okay, just a few suggestions.
All righty.
Yeah, a little constructive criticism.
We'll take that.
Since you only have an hour, if you cut some of the music, and
we've heard that before.
Yeah, and maybe only pick out one subject to discuss and take a few more calls. I think the show would be more interesting.
Well, we worked on that.
Opinion.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what I want to hear. We don't shut off opinion here. That we take all comers. So,
and I am a libertarian, but the thing is, as you said a bit ago, 45 minutes has gone by, and it seems like you just started.
Yeah. Well, that's what happens when you talk about the truth.
Yeah, when you're having fun.
Yeah,
okay.
When you're having fun, and that's what we try to do on here.
Okay, thanks, Patrick. Good
Hey,
luck.
I appreciate the call, Tom. Thanks a lot. All right, let's see. We got Tori. Okay, we'll go to, let's see, Sandy in, where is she? Roane County. Sandy, how's it going?
Okay, another Harriman.
Another Harriman, all right.
We're picking you up today.
We got a bunch of hairy men on our show.
Well, my suggestion is that, and my thought is regarding, let's bombard about Obama.
Uh-huh.
I am very upset over Obama telling the head of the Mexican government to tell the families of his people who have illegal immigrants here in the United States to be sure and tell the illegals that they can come and get food stamps here.
Yeah.
I am absolutely furious. And
Yeah.
I also can come and get a driver's license with their picture so they can vote.
Oh, yeah.
And I wanted just one more thing. I'm really on it today.
It sounds like you're riled up.
Oh, I am. Because of the fact that I wanted to know, time after time, why is he making these trips to Puerto Rico? Puerto Rico's a commonwealth.
Mm-hmm.
Well, guess what? They get to vote now, whether they get to become a state. Well, if they become a state, then they can vote in the election.
Sure. And
Well, they can't do it. They can't vote in a federal election right now. But, boy, he's sure wanting to get them in there before November.
yeah, the thing is he's trying to build that voter base for the Democratic Party.
Well, we need to build a base that people know exactly what in the world this man has done. And as far as Social Security and Medicare, he like many of the other presidents, withdrew money. If they had have left the money in there, invested it, and had the interest drawn on it, then the seniors who had worked at a lower pay, who paid a lower amount in, would have had the money to sustain the Medicare, and they could have received their benefits. But he saw the dollar signs, and he went and had to take it out, so that the very week that he took it out, he was able to give two other countries, one $300 million, and the other $200 million. Well, that took care of the $500 million.
Sure. Well, we got to pay off other countries just like we pay off our voters here.
Well, Patrick, you know what? We've got a short time.
Yeah.
We have got a very short time to get the message out about Obama.
Sure.
And there are so many. We could stay here on the phone all day long about what he's done and how he lacks integrity.
Yeah.
And if we don't get it out to the people, Patrick, and you're doing a wonderful job and we appreciate it, but everybody has got to let these people that don't listen.
Sure.
They're going around dummified.
Yeah, they do.
Their checks in the mail, so they don't care.
That they just want the money. So let me wrap you up here, Sandy. We got a couple other calls we're going to try to get to.
Thank you so much for letting me vent.
Hey, thanks. That's what we're here for. Call us anytime.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All
She
right.
didn't sound happy.
No, she did not. We'll try to jump in one more here. Mark here is calling from Knoxville. Mark, what you got for us today?
Hey, boy, Sandy, I tell you, I could marry a woman like that.
Yeah. Well, we'll just start a singles line here.
Listen, Patrick, I understand you're a libertarian, and I know a lot of the libertarian views are, some of them are for legalization of marijuana and maybe some other drugs.
Sure.
And I have always been. Now, I hope my preacher's not listening. I'm sure he'll call me into his office. But I've always been for that. We spend billions and billions of dollars each year on the war on drugs. We've done this for decades and decades. It's not working. We've got people in overcrowded prisons for possession charges, nonviolent crimes, and I just.
And they're not hurting anyone. They're hurting themselves.
Exactly.
And the problem is we're sending our policemen into these areas, and they're getting shot and killed over these drug things, when if we didn't have this going on, we wouldn't be wasting these policemen's lives. Is what
well,
we're doing.
and also, I'm not. Lord, I know I wouldn't want my daughter to do drugs or anything, and thank goodness she don't. I don't do them, but we've got people that do, and they're going into these dangerous areas, and they're getting robbed and killed.
Yep.
If you're going to do it, they're going to get it anyway.
Exactly.
And, put a tax on it, and maybe shore up some Social Security money. I don't know, but this war on drugs is not working. Go back to the Prohibition days. Well, heck, who got rich when Prohibition kicked in?
Al Capone.
The mob.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And,
That's who's getting rich now. Well, and the CIA. The CIA helps bring some of that stuff over the border, so that keeps them funded.
But right now, I'm sure that would be political suicide if anybody ran on that. But I just hope someday they take a hard look at that.
Well, they should, and as we say on this show a lot, if you're an adult, you can make decisions for yourself. You don't need the government doing it. So
absolutely,
I can go down here to the liquor store, buy enough liquor to kill me, and sit home and do it, and that's fine. But if you go buy a certain substance that the government deems is not right and they don't want you messing with, then you go to jail.
Right.
So,
well, they can simply tax it. That wouldn't be a problem to tax it.
Oh, all right, Mark. I appreciate the call.
Plus, all the senators and congressmen, they drink.
Sure.
Well, not all of them, but you know what I mean.
And
alcohol is part of their lives, so of course they're not going to make that illegal. But for very least, decriminalize
marijuana. And we kind of part ways. I part ways with Mark a little bit when he says tax it. Personally, I don't think the government needs any more tax money. So,
but if they do it, they're going to tax.
They're going. Well, they tax everything else we do.
There'll be a tax.
I can't walk down the street without incurring some kind of tax. Just about.
I believe we'll see decriminalization of marijuana. I think within the next 15 years.
I think that's coming. I think it's going to be a lot harder
in certain states, of course.
Yeah, decriminalize the other substances. But as I say, if you're an adult, you can make your own decisions and live with them. So it's interesting to note how the government knows so much more than I do about how I should take care of myself. And that's that. But it was good to get some calls in, even though we don't get a lot of those in. I appreciate everyone calling, and I appreciate everyone listening to the show this week. If you'd like some more information about the show, you can go to our Facebook page at facebook.com/Patrick Riggin Show. And be sure and hit the like button on there so we get another little number, and it boosts our self-esteem. It helps me sleep at night.
It makes me feel warm and fuzzy.
It does. And then if you want to follow us on Twitter, you can follow us on @PatrickRiggins. And also, if you miss any of the shows or would like to listen to some of the older shows, you can go to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Patrick Riggins Shows or Patrick Riggins Show. And we'll have this show up there probably tonight or tomorrow morning. Join me next Sunday afternoon, where once again we'll talk about freedom, liberty, and the restoration of the Constitution. This is Patrick Riggins, and we'll see you next Sunday. Have a great week.
Join us again next week for a solid dose of truth on the Patrick Riggins Show, every Sunday from 4 to 5 p.m. Be there.